During the last lesson, we connected the interface to the data. Today we will add an animation of the weather conditions. Visually, weather conditions consist of two layers. The lower layer is luminance, blue sky in clear weather, gray in cloudy weather and almost black at night. The upper layer includes natural phenomena, sun rays or glare, precipitation, cloudiness. We will control the animation using the action editor. It's a simple yet powerful tool that allows creating algorithms without writing any code. Let's start. In order to display weather conditions, we need a certain parameter, a trigger, that we can change to animate the weather. To do this, I'll use the icon property value from the current weather section. This property takes on the following values. Here, I combine rain and heavy rain and will simply display rain animation for both options. This will give us 16 weather conditions, 8 daytime and 8 nighttime. Now let's add 16 rows to our table. We now copy the query result. Add new rows to our table in the database inspector. In addition, I will manually change the values in the current weather icon column to make sure that we make all weather options available. Close the window. At this time, I am planning to add a text widget and link it to the current weather icon cell. I will then synchronize it with the table so that we always see the current weather code while scrolling. Let's add a text widget. Rename it to icon. Bind it to the current weather icon cell. Move it to the right and add more contrast. To synchronize it with the table, we need the following action. Right-click the Table 1 widget. Select Action. Double-click Event Cell. Select Current Index Change from drop-down. Double-click Target Cell and select the Icon widget. Select Set it as the action. From our table, we will select Row it as the argument for this action. Let's scroll through and check. When scrolling, the icon widget displays the corresponding value for this line. Note that if you click outside the work area, for example on the inspector, the objects are reset to their initial state, that is, as we initially defined in the inspector, as if we were restarting this app on the device. Now let's add all sorts of weather conditions images from the original app to be guided by one created animation. Add an image widget. Select all images in the weather conditions folder. Hide thumbnails. Expand to fit the page. Move the widget. Rename it to Conditions. Now I plan to add a widget and use it to display luminance. Add a text widget. Rename it to Illumination. Expand to fit the page. The fill is now transparent. Let's add a gradient by copying the colors from the original app. We now need to change the gradient based on the values in the icon widget. Let's add an action. As we change the text in the icon widget, so we'll change the color of the gradient for the luminance object. Copy the colors. We now need to add a condition that will specify a given color. We list the weather codes in the text field. Select the Contains operator. Use widget's text property as the second argument. That is, if the value of the text property is contained in our string, then this action will be performed. Let's duplicate the action. Let's select the cloudy weather image in the Conditions widget and copy the colors. These colors will be displayed when the icon value is set to 04D. Let's scroll through the cities and check. And we see that the luminance is changing. Wow, great! Now I plan to duplicate this action for all weather conditions. Let's select the illumination widget so that the action editor would display only those actions that are associated with this widget. Press Ctrl D to duplicate the selected action. Use codes 09 and 10 for rainy weather. Expand the Editor panel and do the same for the nighttime. Let's scroll through and make sure that the illumination changes to reflect different times of the day and types of weather. Wonderful! We've added luminance animation. Now let's add a natural phenomena. Select the Conditions widget and then select the Clear Weather image. We see the sun rays and lens flare. Let's add the sun rays. Add an image widget. Go to the Animation folder. Select the sun PNG file. Rename the widget to Sun. Drag it over the illumination. Expand to fit the page. We now need to display the sun rays for certain values and hide them for others. Let's do it by using an action. Select the Icon widget. Let's add an action. Upon the text changed event on the Icon widget, we define the Set Opacity action with the value 1 for the Sun widget. Let's make it completely opaque for the values 01, 02 and 03. Let's hide it, making it completely transparent for all other values. Let's duplicate the action. Set Full Transparency. In the Comparison Operator list, select No Contains. Let's check it out. We see that the rays disappear when the value is 0.4 and they reappear with the value of 0.3. Now let's add the lens flare. Duplicate the sun widget. Rename it to lens. In the widget inspector, select the lens flare PNG file. In the geometry inspector, set the height and width to 800 pixels. Now we need to animate the flare. We will create a slow pulsation, making the flare images alternately increase and decrease. To do this, we will use the scale action. This is how it will look. We will also seamlessly rotate the reflection of the glare by using Z rotation property. Select top left in the origin point list so that rotation would start from the top of left corner. Note that the copying a widget also copies the action associated with it. This makes our task much easier. Here, our transparency actions have been preserved. Glare will be displayed for the same values as the rays, so we do not touch these sections. We need to add animation action. We will initiate animation by pressing the button. Let's add a button. Rename it to Start Animation. Add more contrast to it. And move it to the right. Widget is overlapping our button. Drag it above. Select the button, add an action for it. Select Click as the event. Set the lens widget as a target. Select the Set Scale action. Set the scale to 1.3. In the Animation tab, select Linear in the type list. Set the duration to 9900 milliseconds. It is about 10 seconds. Let's click the button to start the animation. The lens size increases gradually, then stops. After its size has increased, we need to start to decrease it. Duplicate the Set Scale action. Set scale to 0.9. Set delay to 10,000 milliseconds. The widgets will start decrease in size 10 seconds after pressing the button. We can see how the widget is growing and it starts to shrink after 10 seconds. It shrinks for 10 seconds and stops. We need to make this action loop so that the widget would grow, then shrink, and then grow again, and so on. To do this, open the Repeats tab. Set interval to 20 seconds. Do the same for the other set scale action. So, after 20 seconds, the actions will start again. Let's add other natural phenomena. First, I will add static images that we will later animate. Duplicate the sun widget. Rename it to View Clouds. Change the image. In the geometry inspector, set the width to 2 and height to 0.25. Note that we have some empty space remained on the left and right. This is because we are in the Fit Fill mode. Select the Stretch Fill mode. Let's change the conditions. This image will appear for us at the values O2D and O2N, that is for the daytime and nighttime. Duplicate the widget and move on. Rename it to Party Cloudy. Similarly, let's do the same for cloudy weather, rainy day, storm, snow and fog. Wonderful! We have now added all weather events. Let's scroll through and see what happens on the screen. Excellent! Now let's add animation. Please note that we can see all weather events at the same time. Let's set the opacity to 0. Let's select all widgets with weather events. In the Inspector tab, set 0 in the opacity field. Now select the Start Animation widget. Let's add an action. Double-click Event cell and select Click. Double-click Target cell and select the View Clouds widget. Let's choose the parallax animation as the action. This refers to the texture scrolling horizontally or vertically. Let's set 2 in the direction field and 2200 in the duration field. Select -1 in the loops field, which means infinite looping. Display the View Clouds widget by making it opaque. Now make sure you have selected the parallax action and click the Run Action button. Now, can you see how the clouds started moving? Let me remind you that by clicking outside the work area, we stop and reset all actions. We can see the Start Animation button to start all the necessary actions. Now, let's turn on animation for all remaining widgets. Select the View Clouds widget. Let's duplicate the parallax action. Let's set the target as the Party Cloudy widget. Note that we have lost a line in the action editor. This is because the currently selected widget is View Clouds and actions are displayed for that widget only. Select the page to display all actions. Duplicate the parallax action and configure it for cloudy weather. The animation speed will be the same for cloudy weather, but the speed needs to be changed for fog. Let's set 9 seconds. Let's duplicate the action. Select the Rain widget. And here we need to change the direction, since the rain will fall vertically from top to bottom. Let's set direction 3 and duration 1000. Duplicate it. For the snow animation, set the duration to 5000. Let's check it out. Let's press the Start Animation button and see the changes of the screen. Wonderful! Select the Condition widget. Then nighttime weather. Now we can see stars. Let's add the stars. If you look closely, the stars are also animated in the original app. They move from top to bottom, but very slowly. Duplicate the rain widget. Rename it to stars. Select the stars PNG file. Let's set the conditions. The stars are visible only in the clear nighttime weather. There are codes O1N and O2N. Let's change the parallax speed by setting it to 300,000. Let's check for stars in the interface. Excellent! Now select rain in the condition widget. If you look closely, you can see fading. That is, raindrops towards the bottom of the screen become transparent. Let's duplicate this effect as well. Select the rain widget. In the Style Inspector, click the Mask button and select the Mask PNG file. Select the Stretch Fill mode. Let's copy the conditions for the snowy and starry weather. To do this, right-click and select Copy File Name. Select the Stars widget and just paste it into the desired section. Select the Stretch Fill mode. Let's now repeat it for the Snow widget. Let's now restore the widget opacity to see how this looks. We can see that the transparency area in the widget is changing, and the image is fading out at the bottom of the screen. Let's hide the snow by making it transparent. Select the Storm widget and make it opaque. Let's select the storm image in the Condition widget. Yes, we see that this image is very different from the original. Let's do some coloring. Select the Storm widget. Set the color to gray in the Style Inspector. We see how the clouds have changed coloring. Let's do it using an action. Duplicate the Set Opacity action. In the Animation menu, select Set Overlay Color Action. Copy and paste the color. On the Conditions tab, apply this for the value 11D. This way, gray color will be applied for a daytime storm. Select the Condition widget and open the Night Storm option. We see a darker coloring is applied in this case. Let's select it. Now, let's set it using an action for the value 11N. Let's make sure everything works as intended. Let's now do the same for the fog widget. Let's make it opaque while making all other widgets transparent so that they don't get in our way. Find fog in the Conditions widget. Let's color the texture. Copy the color and add the coloring action for the daytime fog. Let's do the same for the nighttime fog. Let's duplicate the action and apply it to the file with nighttime fog. Let's check it out. Wonderful! Select the Conditions widget. Select the storm image. Now we need to add lightning. Duplicate the storm widget. Rename it to lightning. Right-click and select Convert to Video. In the Widget Inspector, select the video file. Let's set the opacity. Hide the icons in the Widget Inspector. Turn on autoplay and looping. We can see that the video has started. Note that the parallax animation was preserved in copying. We do not need it here. Delete this section. Let's see how it turned out. Now select Cloudy Night in the Condition widget. Let's check how it looks in our app. In the original, the night clouds, semi-transparent. Let's do the same. To eliminate the need for changing the transparency for all types of day and night clouds, we will group them together and we'll be changing the transparency of the group. Select the widgets Few Clouds, Patchy Cloudy, Cloudy. Right-click and select Group Selected Items. Rename the group to Clouds. In the Action Editor, duplicate any Set Opacity action. Double-click Target Cell and select the Clouds group. Let's set Daytime Weather to Opaque. To do this, we select the value of the icon widget as the first argument. We select Ends With as the operator. And we enter D as the second argument. In the text of the icon widget ends with the character D, the group will opaque. Let's duplicate the action and set the opacity to 0.2. Provided that our text ends with the character N, therefore the group will be semi-transparent for nighttime weather. Check it out. We see that the clouds are fully opaque in the daytime. And they are semi-transparent at night. Now I want to make it so that the animation would start automatically when our app is opened. Select the Start Animation widget. Add an action for it. Double-click Source Cell and select the page 1. Let's select Enter as the event. Select Click as the action. This way, we simulate a click of the button when opening the page. Let's save the project. Reopen it. Now we see animation. Note that when opening a project, some widgets are not hidden. Let's check and make sure that full transparency is set everywhere. Select several widgets at the same time. Change the opacity value. This applies to all selected widgets. Save and reopen the project again. Look, the sun rays and glare did not appear on the first screen at opening. This happens because the change in transparency is tied to the change in the text of the icon widget. That is only when scrolling. Let's fix this by forcing the text to change as the page is opened. Select the icon widget. Let's add an action. Double-click source cell and select the page 1. Double-click event cell and select the enter. Select the set text action. Let's set the same text that is already in this widget. We use the text property. Thus, we force the text change event to activate the necessary widgets. Now, let's save it, restart and check. Excellent!